Hi guys, welcome to another ramble from a parking lot in my car. It's so fun. Today's video, I was gonna touch on something that sounds really paradoxical, but I guess this video is going to touch on keep breaking your own heart open until you realize who you really are. Does that make sense? Yeah, so the topic of today is keep breaking your own heart. But then, you have to add keep breaking it open until it opens and you become more of who you truly are. So, I don't know, I feel like sometimes it's hard for me to make videos without sounding redundant, but for me, I've mentioned, you and I probably had really traumatic, emotionally turbulent childhoods growing up, emotionally unstable. And I think in order to safeguard ourselves, we adopted being highly sensitive to the emotions of the people in our surroundings, and then we adopted people pleasing as a preservation mechanism. And the thing is, when you're a child, and you're trying to safeguard yourself because your guardians aren't doing it, and you're just kind of blindly trying to navigate through the world as best you can. Yeah, that's tough. And then as we grow up, as we become adults, instead of recognizing that we don't need to do that anymore, we don't need to operate from that place anymore, we just kind of carry that habit and pattern into adulthood, and it becomes a great disservice to ourselves, because it's we don't recognize, where we should implement boundaries and where we should be firm, and how to regulate, how we approach different people, different situations. It's always, begging and pleasing and looking for validation so that we can feel safe, I feel. Yeah, so as you get older, as you become an adult, if you don't recognize that, the, how do I say? That preservation mechanism that you were using in childhood no longer is valid as you step into adulthood. If you don't recognize that, that's when, it becomes very destructive. It becomes a disservice. It already served its purpose, but you're still implementing it in situations and with people, and it doesn't work, because there's opportunists, there's manipulators, there's narcissists, there's unhealed people that are out there, and they will use your kindness against you, especially if you don't know when to withdraw or retract, or if you don't know yourself enough to know what you want to invest in and what is a bad investment and where you should just withdraw. You know what I mean? Let's get into it. So where am I going with this? So as I entered adulthood, and I'm sure you can relate, I was just always caught in toxic cycles, in unhealthy relationships with unhealed people, myself not excluded, because I was still operating from a very, outdated space. It's I didn't know how to self-regulate. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what to invest in, what was going to promote wellness in my life, and how to withdraw from things that promoted discord and conflict and confusion and deterioration of my fucking soul. And on this journey, I encountered what I needed to encounter because they were a vibrational match to who I was in that moment, right? In that particular timeline. And I kept wanting to repair, and I kept trying and giving to people who didn't know how to reciprocate. And I just kept like putting myself in situations. I kept choosing to be in situations, in relationships, in dynamics that were very toxic for me. And I thought I could fix things, I could repair things, I could heal things, I could keep things together if I just tried more, if I just tried and gave more. But that gets really, really imbalanced, because you're giving to things that destroy you. Destroy your wellness, destroy your sense of peace, your fucking self-esteem, because I think when you keep giving to a situation that obviously isn't going anywhere, or you keep giving to a situation that isn't promoting well-being, it is destructive. It's like you end up, I want to say, giving so much of yourself away, sacrificing so much of your time and attention that you, at the end of the day, you're exhausted. That's why you need deep rest. Get it? Deep rest. That's why people are depressed. They're just empty. It's just like you've given so much of yourself away to all these like people, and they've given you nothing in return, and you just kind of like empty and depressed, and you need depressed. It's so funny. They say depression is like a sickness. It's not a sickness. It's depression is there to show you that you're imbalanced, and you need to make decisions or course correct so that you can get back to a place where you are back in balance. But until you're if you're not in balance, you're constantly like exerting a lot of energy to keep things in balance, and it's exhausting. And then eventually you need to rest, and if you don't rest on your own accord, then depression will hit you so that you fucking rest. You get that deep fucking sleep that you've been missing out on, and give yourself time to replenish because you've been too busy trying to replenish everything else around you. But anyways, getting back to the subject matter, so all these relationships, my heart was broken many times over, because when I love, I really love. When I care, I really care. When I am loyal, I am really loyal to someone. And I was under this false notion, because of the stories that have been socially constructed, that if you love someone, you stay with them in the good times and bad times, through sickness, through health, kind of like marriage vows, and thank God I never got married. But because that's a trap. That's another video. I should make another video for that shit. But I was under the false notion, because of social orchestration, that if you love someone, you stay with them, regardless if it's hurting you, regardless if you're happy or sad. You just stay with them, and that's your dedication, your love, your loyalty to a person that you care deeply about. But I don't know, currently I'm just like, that's a load of bullshit. You don't stay with someone because you love them, and they're hurting you. If somebody is abusing you consistently, and then you're trying to repair, and you're trying to hold things together, and you're constantly being hit down physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that's so exhausting. And that is self-abuse, that is self-neglect, that is dismissing yourself. This is sacrifice. Sacrificing for what? For someone who won't sacrifice for you? Can you please make that make sense? But anyways, I encountered many, well, I don't know if you would say many, because as an INFJ, I think it's hard for you to get close to people, but when you let someone into your inner sanctum, you're giving them access to all of you. And I I gave a good amount of people access to me, and they absolutely destroyed me. You know what? Let's pivot with that perspective. Did they destroy me? If I chose to stick around, if I chose to stay, if I chose to tolerate, I made those choices, right? So did they destroy me? Or were they just the catalyst that I needed to destroy older versions of myself that don't fit in with the future I'm trying to create? Because I can tell you, like, the person I am now is certainly not the girl I was even 10 months ago. You know? And I jokingly say, you know, that all the betrayal that I encountered through the hands of people that I cared about and loved, that all the swords that were put in my back through betrayal killed that previous version of myself. And now I am absolutely dedicated to safeguarding my energy, safeguarding my time, safeguarding my attention, my resources, and only investing in things that deserve it. You know, no more free handouts, no more Mother Teresa's. You know, I'm sorry. Like, no, actually, I'm not sorry. And the thing is, like, it's kind of bittersweet, and it kind of is kind of paradoxical, because you can say somebody betrayed you, but ultimately you were betraying yourself by sticking around, by putting up with nonsense, by allowing people to dictate the way you were living your life and your perception, right? So it's like you can't really blame the people. You know, they were obviously an energetic match to the version of you that was unhealed, you know, and they were just showing you. They're holding up a mirror and showing you what you were doing to yourself. So even though I feel like these people betrayed me, ultimately I was betraying myself by putting up with all this abuse, you know. And in other videos I say abuse comes in many forms, guys. It's not just physical. The physical, I know it looks brutal, but it's actually not nearly as, it doesn't cut as deeply as emotional and mental and even spiritual abuse, you know, because those are, you can't see that. You can't see the emotional and mental and spiritual abuse, you know. I mean, it might peek out in subtle ways through the physical body, but ultimately, like, you know, if you don't have a bruise or a cut on your body, but emotionally and mentally you've been broken down and abused, nobody can really sense that and see that. And a lot of times people who are victims of abuse don't really talk about it, you know. But I think we're moving into an era where people are like bringing light to these dark topics, and they are speaking up and they are speaking out, and, you know, they are encouraging others to, like, recognize that that's not okay, you know. But so my whole thing is, through these interactions, I was breaking my own heart. Breaking my own heart. And every time I broke my heart, it's almost like, if you, okay, this isn't my analogy. Say your heart is a seed casing, you know, and every time you break it, opens. And you break it and it opens. And you break it and it opens until it shines. And your soul shines through. And you know what, honestly, in this day and age, I feel like the world needs more of that. And even though, like, you go through the pain, I've always said in videos, turn pain into power. You know, you always have two choices when you encounter pain. You can either retract and play the victim, and that's okay, because, you know, pain is pain, and it's very uncomfortable. There's different levels and intensities of pain, and sometimes the intensity of the pain is so freaking hard to deal with that, you know, you will retract, you will cringe, you know, you will have to, like, isolate, or, you know, whatever, you know, distract, escape temporarily. you know, and then revisit it again. But for me, I've encountered so much pain for most of my life that I don't want to say it's normalized, but it is normal for me to just push into it instead of retract from it. You know, like I am certainly adept at turning the pain into power and using that as fuel to shed old layers of myself so that I can move forward, up, anywhere, you know, just move and not stay in place, you know. Yeah, keep breaking your heart open. It's funny, until you learn that the world is your mirror, you will keep blaming everything and everyone around you until you recognize that it's you're doing it, you know. But keep doing you, man. Keep doing you. Keep trekking on, keep pushing forward, keep moving past fears and pain and past bad relationships and things that are not promoting well-being, and keep taking care of yourself, you know. In the beginning it'll be hard because you're so used to taking care of everyone else, but like any muscle, you know, the more you exercise it, the better you get at just giving that back to yourself, you know. Be well, take care of yourself, you know. And you know, people think that love hurts, but it's the absence of love that hurts, you know, the absence of love. And you know, how do I say this? I feel like we've been pouring our love into everyone else. Now it's time to pour it back into ourselves, you know, because it's been absent from ourselves for a long time, you know. And I think once you start doing that, that's when you start blooming. That's when you start becoming who you really are in a world full of trickery and fakery. You know what I'm saying? Keep following that inner compass. Keep listening to that inner voice, and make sure that inner voice is kind and supportive, because you deserve it. Anyways, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for listening to my rambles, my silly rambles. Yeah, till next time, take care, be well, and blessings to one and all.